It was sleepless nights and 12-hour workdays for Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Michelle Forbes. With only 19 members of staff, NEMO was able to mount an evacuation exercise of 20,000 persons from the north of the island.
We were preparing for this event for quite some time. We don't know when it was going to happen. We just knew that we had to continue our knowledge management and training persons and informing persons about the risk that we are living with, which is the Soufriere volcano. I actually had an accident on the 7th of April trying to hustle to come down to have a meeting with the scientists. And that night, it's a story I think I need to say. That night I didn't sleep for whatever reason, whether it's the accident or the volcano was on my mind. And I sensed things were going to start changing. And I was monitoring it myself from my phone because I can do monitoring the signals. And I couldn't sleep that night. And every 2 hours or so, I would get up and look at my device to see what was happening. So when Professor Robertson called me about 5 o'clock in the morning, I knew he was going to call. And he's, at that point, you couldn't say, yes, you need to evacuate now. He said, Michelle, things are looking a little, things are heating up a bit. We don't know what it's going to be a day that we have to watch. We worked with the Coast Guard so that when the evacuation order was given, the Coast Guard took control of this evacuation, and it went really well, this evacuation. And the only challenge we would have had there is when the boats went to Bowley. Bowley Wharf is small. They couldn't accommodate all the boats at one time, so they had to be diverted to Kingstown. So it meant that once they were diverted to Kingstown, we had to provide, change plans a bit, call persons at last minute to get persons from the Kingstown Wharf to the various shelters. So the shelters that was designated for persons to go to from Chateaubelair, for example, we ended up having people in Kingstown instead of maybe Bowley or Leave. I think we did have some challenges evacuating persons from the northeastern part come down because of the lack of transportation. We don't have, most of our transportation that we have to use is private. So we did have some challenges there. People were waiting for quite some time.
And the challenges kept coming. As Forbes explains, preparing the shelters for such a large portion of the population did not go according to plan.
But we did our best in that regard. But by Saturday, we had some of the things in stock. And I think after the first week, we started to things settle in a little bit, because by then we would have had, what we had to do, for example, where we couldn't get the meals being prepared on time, we had to hire caterers to prepare the meals. And that weekend we hired caterers, and we had that going for about 2 weeks until things settled down. I think by the next week we would have had most of the bedding situation sorted out, because we got the cots flying from Miami on I think it's on the Friday, and then come up on a boat Saturday night from Grenada. So by Sunday, Monday, we had some of the bedding to distribute.
Looking back, Forbes admits there were areas where improvements could have been made, and she gave the assurance that NEMO will be upgrading their disaster management policies.
We can do as much preparation as we want. We often judge on our response. So, it's telling. I think a lot of persons, I think we fell down in the communications because we were going good initially, but then when the volcano went bang, we kind of lost it a bit in communications in terms of communicating with the public, and we have to strengthen that. I think, are we bold enough to say that is one area that we have to strengthen?
NEMO has made tremendous strides in its management of national disasters over the years, and Director Forbes urged all Vincentians to make disaster preparedness a priority. Reporting for SVG-TV News, Christina Smith.